See what's going on my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so I'm just going to pick up where we left off yesterday. One thing I'm going to change today is that instead of having this training document with all the details up, I'm going to use the protocol because you're getting the details from me, basically. And the protocol is a little bit easier to follow in terms of following the steps. So yesterday we did this step 1 here on a couple of columns of data that just involved validating the data and then saving the work and marking a few things to indicate that we had done the work. So we're going to keep working through the file. So I'm just going to show you where we're at. So now we're on this org name column. And how do I know that? Since we're picking up the work a day later, just to be sure, I know this because these two column names here in the data mapping have been grayed out. So that tells me that those two columns have been validated. And in addition to that, these column headers here have been changed to the sumac field names that they'll be migrated to, and this one is not. So the next step here is to look at this org name column in the mapping and see what we have to do. All right, so I look here and there are actually 2 fields indicated in the data mapping. So 2 records, sorry, the fields are here. And then there are some instructions for this second field. So I'm just going to show you in the protocol. You'll see that step 2 is sort of other things. This is where we can't label everything in a step individually, but other things to look out for as we work through the columns or through the file. So the first one is actually columns that are mapped to multiple fields in sumac. And so what we do in this case is, now I will open the training document. Okay, so if it indicates that the data from the column must go into several separate fields in sumac, we have to duplicate the column, then name each appropriately. So basically, this one column of data in the existing data, in the incoming data, is going to become 2 separate fields of data. And so we have to address that by duplicating the field. So I'm going to select the column and then click the duplicate column button. And now we have 2 identical org name columns. So the first one I'm going to validate according to the first field indicated here, which is the business organization. Now, if I'm not sure what a business organization is, again, I forgot to open this up. I'm going to verify it in the terminology guide. And so if I go down to my appendix, where I have my field definitions, and I go to contacts, and then I scroll down to where I can find the business organization. I might just do a search for it. Okay, here it is. Okay, so it tells me it's a text field and it's 180 characters long. So basically with text fields, there's not much you can do. You just leave them as is, so that's good. I'm going to go back to sumac and just rename this contact business organization. Okay, and so now in the mapping, I'm going to check my second one, and it's last name. So I'm going to go back into here and rename this last name. Now, I haven't been through the mapping yet, and I haven't been through all of this file. There's a good chance that there's another last name field somewhere else in this file. So just for the moment, we're going to leave it there as the last name file. Essentially, we have validated this column of data. So I'm going to gray this out to indicate that that's been done. And then I've renamed these columns, and then I'll save this, and we move on to the next one. Prefix is going to be a contact prefix in sumac. I know, because I've been doing this for a long time, that basically whatever's in there is what's going to go into sumac. So I will just call this contact prefix. And this has been validated. And I'll save my file. And we move to the next column. So you see, it's not really complicated. You just have to be sure you're doing all of the individual little steps so that everyone knows where we're at with this file. First name, again, that's not a column that you usually have to do anything with. You always have to check this column here to make sure there isn't some sort of special instruction. In this case, there isn't. So this is going to be first name. Save my file. Make this gray. And then move to the next one. Same thing, last name. Now remember, we had a last name file over here, or column over here, that was part of the organization with the organization name. And if you look really quickly here, you can tell that where there's an organization name here, there's nothing in the last name column here. So when we have two or more columns that are mapped to the same field in sumac, we have to basically put them together. So if we go back to the organization column of data, it said that this is going to be the last name where the last name column is empty. So that's this column. So what I'm going to do is actually select it, move it over using these arrows so that it's before the other organization last name column. And then I'm going to select both columns. And I'm going to click this Append Columns button. And what that'll do is it actually will put those two columns together. Now sumac asks me to enter a separator. As a rule, we'll use a semicolon, because it's not something that people use very much. It's a symbol that you don't see very often. And what that will do is that if there is something in the first last name column and in the second last name column, it will put that semicolon in between the two. So I'll click OK, and now you'll see that here you can see that they've been put together. And then what I'm going to do again this time is split the column and use the semicolon to make sure that there weren't last names or organization names that were appended to cells of data that actually already contained information. So I'll click OK, and it splits out anything based on the semicolon. If I do a sort, it'll sift any cells with data to the bottom, and you'll see here, this is exactly what we wanted to do. There was already something in that last name column, and so when it was appended, it had this semicolon with this after it, and then when we split on the semicolon, it split out those names again. So everything that's in this column 2 can be discarded, so we'll delete this column now. And then we'll scroll back to the top and just rename this so that it's last name. Oops. Want this to say contact last name. And because I did this bit now, that's been dealt with, we grade that out. So basically we grade the stuff out that's been done. That's the rule. Okay. And then same here, this last name, we've dealt with that.
Sorry, Jeanette, I have a question.
Yes.
So in the cell that you showed before, it would say two things: one of them organization name and one of them last name. So the other one, the organization name, you just deleted.
That's right. Because if you remember, initially we duplicated the column with the business name, right? So that's this column.
Duplicated. Sorry.
Yeah.
I missed the duplication part.
Okay. Yeah, so we didn't just completely delete that organization name. If there are two fields mapped to, one column mapped to two fields, we'll always duplicate the column before we do any other work, so that when we're doing any of the work, let's say on part 2 or the second thing, then we still have we've kept the original data that needs to go somewhere else, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so then we'll move on. Suffix, there's nothing we do with that, so we'll just call that contact suffix. Save the file. Write this out. Okay, address 1 and address 2. Now, for the guys who have been doing data cleaning, I don't know if you were doing this before, but I know previously we used to use this apartment numbers button. Are you guys still using that? Do you use that to split out the apartment numbers?
Yep,
No.
we still do.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay, so the new
Okay.
rule is that we're not going to do it. It doesn't do a really good job of it. It sort of makes a bunch of assumptions about how the apartment numbers are formatted, and we've had a lot of problems, especially where there's like rural road, like our number ones. I've seen a lot of messes actually result from this apartment numbers button. So whatever's in address 1 and address 2, unless there's a special instruction in the mapping, those from now on we're just going to leave as is. So
Okay.
okay, so that's like one little thing that we don't have to do anymore. So this will be contact street A. Oh, residence or business street A, right. We always want whatever is up here to match what is in the mapping here. It's got to be identical. And just so you guys know, whatever is here is exactly identical to the field names in sumac. So this is exactly where it's going to go in sumac. All right, so we've got street A, street B. I'm going to save this again. The saving stuff may sound like it's a little much. There's a reason that we save after every column. This basically ensures that, like, let's say we made a mistake here. Let's say somebody accidentally hit a button, like this apartment numbers button, and didn't notice they did it, and it changed a bunch of stuff, and now there's like a huge mistake here. And then there's like, you kept working through the file. If we save after every single column has been validated, then we can actually work our way through the versions of the file to the point where the mistake was made without having to like go beyond that point, backwards beyond that point, and redo a bunch of work, basically. So it's easy for us to, if there are mistakes, to find the mistake and then to actually fix the mistake and not have to start over from the beginning, basically. All right, so city. City, that's going to be residence. Oops. Don't do that. So this is residence. Business. I have to let her out. Yeah. Just, okay. So, we've got city here. We've got province here. Now, this one I used to change, but again, we're probably just going to leave this as is. Guys, are you currently using like a map to change, like let's say Michigan into the abbreviation, like the official abbreviation? Do you have? Is that something you're doing right now?
Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll use a script and change everything to the abbreviation.
Okay, and like that's what you're actually doing now?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, from now on, we won't do that. It's a little bit. Well, I don't know. I'm on the fence about that one. Yeah, let's keep doing it. I don't have a script that does this on my computer right now. But again, you could use. I don't know if you remember, guys, that map script, Marta, that I was using yesterday. Basically, we can have. I used to have one on my desktop that just did provinces and states, and so you could run the map here so that Michigan is MI, for example, and Ontario would get turned into ON. So that's something we can continue doing, guys, especially if you already have those files on your computers. Rohan, do you have one of those? Is Rohan not on this call? Hello?
Oh, yeah.
He
Sorry,
is.
I
His
was
mic's
muted.
muted.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
No. I don't have one of those.
Okay, so Henson, could you maybe email me that file and I'll put it somewhere where we can all access it? And I'll probably like
Yep. I just did mine, copying all the states and all that.
Yeah.
If that's fine, the map thing
Yeah, I mean,
via text. Is that what you're referring to?
yeah, the thing that would turn like Ontario into ON
Yeah.
and so on, just so we don't have to all redo that work.
I don't have the US though.
Oh, okay.
Normally, what I would do is just to sort it out. If I see, for example, that this file only uses like Michigan, or because oftentimes it's Canada that I handled. So
Oh, I see. Okay.
if it's just a couple of states, like, but I could do one.
No. If it's not done, then we'll just set one up that we can all use. I can do that. Make a note of it, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, if you have the provinces done, then we may as well start with that one.
Okay.
Just a sec, guys. I'm making a quick note. Okay. So that's something I didn't note anywhere, so I'm just gonna, so you guys are gonna have to remember it for now, but basically you could run the little map file. It's probably not the end of the world if you forget to do it, but it's just like one of those little things we can do that makes a difference to the client. Okay, so let's say we run the map on that. That's done. I save the file, go back to the mapping. I've done all of these guys. Oh, I didn't do the postal code. All right, postal code. Yay, something that needs actual work. Okay, so postal codes, we have a tool that will examine the postal codes and let us know which ones are possibly in error based on the country that you've set in your preferences. So the first thing we have to do, I'm just going to set my titles. There's a set titles button here. And you'll see at the top where you'll see column 12, 13, 14. Once I press this button, it will match, it'll change the column titles to whatever is in the data's column header. Sometimes it just makes it easier, like in the case of here, where you can't read the whole column header, you get more up here in the column titles section. Now, what we want to do is just like quickly scan to see if there's a country. I don't think there is in this data. I don't see anything here. I'll just do a quick scan here. Yeah, so no country. So what you do for postal codes is you actually go, you select the column, you go down to this validate drop down menu, and then we're going to scroll down to postal codes. And we used to do this whole thing where we checked it, we validated it, and then we would repair if there were errors. Just skip this check, this validate step, guys. I don't know if you were, I think you were doing that before, right? You checked it first?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so don't even worry about that. Just go straight to repair. And then Sumac's going to ask you which country, which column contains the country information. If there was a country column, you would say, oh, this one, like whatever, this one called email has like the list of the countries in the records. In this case, since there isn't any, you'll click OK. And Sumac presents you with a list of the postal codes that it thinks are in error. And you have the option of telling Sumac whether to change them or not. So I'm going to sort them. I don't know why I do this. It just makes it easier for me to sort of get my head around it. So for example, here it sees 4414, and it's proposing 04414 because that's probably a US postal code. Given that we don't have countries, but we know that there are US addresses in this file, we saw Michigan a couple of times, for example, we're going to select it to be fixed. And then if I do just a quick scan, you can kind of see where there's probably errors, right? Like this K7-2, it proposes K7Z, that makes sense. Here, there's no space. Here, this should be probably a 0. So sumac shows you what it suggests is going to make as changes, and you basically say that you're going to make those changes or not. Now, in this case, I'm scanning through the list. Everything looks vaguely correct. Since there are no foreign countries in here, I don't really have to worry about accidentally changing a correct postal code. So you can just do shift click to select all of the ones that you want to fix. Now, let's say here in this country column, you had, United Kingdom. In this case, I probably wouldn't select this one to be fixed because it's suggesting a Canadian postal code format, but really what you're seeing is a country that is outside of Canada. In those cases, you actually leave them alone, so you just don't fix them. So again, if we had UK down here, I would just leave this one unhighlighted, unselected, and then you click Apply Changes, and then they all disappear except for the one I didn't touch. So you can kind of do them, if you have a really big file, you can do them in chunks. Like you can sort by country, and then all of the ones that say USA, you can just you don't even really need to scan the proposed postal codes. You can just say, yeah, fix all the ones that are Canada, fix all the ones that are USA, fix all the ones that don't have a country assigned to it because they're probably Canadian postal codes. And then you would leave the other countries' postal codes alone, basically. So because this is Canada, I'll apply the changes, and then I'll click Done. And now if you look at the postal codes, if we did a validate again, we don't need to do this necessarily, but if you validate the postal codes again, oops. Oh, it's still finding errors. What did you find? Aha. So there's stuff in here that for whatever reason is showing up as wrong, like Cayman Islands. This stuff I'm going to mostly leave alone. Like, for example, this, we have this new rule now that we're moving data as is. So as much as possible, we're just not going to touch the data, even if it's showing up as wrong. I think sumac will accept these regardless of what's in there. So because there are only 11 of them, and so like here, London, this could be a UK postal code, possibly. Same here. So these we just leave as is. We're going to show all, assume that these are done. Save this file.
Jeanette,
Yep.
question with regards to that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not sure if I remember it right, but there was a case where I had a client that deals with international donors, so they have other countries on their list.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was importing it to Sumac, Sumac would not accept the postal codes. It's turning red. So what I did is just delete it and send the list to the client of the rows, or rather the contact IDs that got deleted with the postal code. Does Sumac accept the ones that are not in Canada, US, when we import it right now, as we leave it as it is?
Yeah, it should. It's possible that they were actually, let me show you. That was the right thing to do for sure, is to just provide them with an error report of the ones that weren't accepted. So let's say I do. Let's go back to our list. Okay, so Cayman Islands, obviously that's a country. But let's say this file is kind of little, but if you had 50,000 records, right? Like if the ratio of errors in a file of 50,000 records, if you had the same ratio of errors, it'd be too much to manually deal with, right? So I'm just going to show you. If I go into a contact record and try to put Cayman Islands into the postal code, I just want to see what it's going to do. Yeah, see, it tells you it's not in the correct format, but it still lets you put it in there. I think what maybe was happening is that they may have been, I don't know without seeing the data, but it's possible that they were too long. Like maybe there were too many characters, but it shouldn't, As far as I remember, I'd have to test it, but it shouldn't prevent you from importing them. What sumac is?
Yep, because mine, sorry,
Yeah.
it did prevent me from importing it. There were I checked all the because you would know if it's an error, right, with the pink
Yep.
highlight. The highlight was on the postal codes, so that's what I remember doing. That was a client a long time ago. I'm just not sure if the updates on Sumac allows us to do that now. But in inputting it one by one, it does work for me. But my concern would be with the actual importing because if we, yeah, like what you're saying, if we have a huge file and there are a lot of postal codes that are not in the US or UK, US or Canada format, then um, what do we do with those?
Yeah, so what you would do, first of all, I mean, it's hard to know exactly what happened there. I think sumac will accept them unless there are too many characters for the field. So in whatever the case would be, if sumac just won't accept them, then when you're at the point of importing them, you would import the records without them. So like import the contact record without the postal code, and then you'd produce an error report that you can send to the client to say, these were imported without postal codes. Here's the error report for you to review, and then they can decide what they want to do with that information.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So I'm gonna show all. Just gonna mark that this was done. And I can't remember if I saved this, so I'm going to save it. Okay, so phone numbers, guys. This is new. You guys are going to be really happy that from now on, phone numbers, we just validate. And whatever is an error, and we import it as is. So no more like splitting out phone numbers. No more like removing the ones at the beginning of the phone numbers. All we have to do is select the column, click the phone numbers button. If it's a North American phone number, sumac needs an area code in case there isn't one. So we'll always enter 000, and then you click OK. And it only found 2 errors. Now, previously, we used to actually say no and check what the errors were and see if we could manually fix them. Now, because we're getting larger and larger files, it's way too much work to do all that work manually, so we're just going to say yes to put the plus sign at the front of the phone number. And you can still go in and look at them if you want. Yeah, see, there's email addresses here. Now, because this file is so little and there's only 2 of them, I'll probably just manually fix these. But as a rule, see, this is why I don't like doing that stuff. As a rule, we'll just leave everything as is with the plus sign at the front of it. And that's it. So no more crazy manual work for phone numbers. We just validate them. Sumac appends the plus sign at the front of it, and we're done. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay, so I'll mark that as done. And we're sort of at the end of our half hour, guys. So do you have any questions about anything else that I did today?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
None on my end.
All right. So
Nope.
Great. So tomorrow, guys, we have our staff meeting at 9:30. So I think we're going to resume our training on Friday, and we'll keep working through this file. And I think that's it.
Oh,
Okay.
Jeanette,
Oh,
how long are we gonna be doing the training? Like, is it planned for like a certain number of weeks? Because I kind of want to add it to my calendar. Because honestly, I forgot that we were supposed to have it. That's why I took that call.
yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so it's going to be daily until we get through it, basically.
So, like an ETA, like until December. Do you think it's gonna take that long,
Yeah,
or
probably.
until?
Just because there's lots of like I definitely want to work through this file and finish this file, and then once this is done, we're going to learn how to do data import, and when that's done, we're going to learn how to do data mapping. So this is sort of an ongoing project for sure.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll add that to my calendar so I don't forget.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.